Great to see you all, and what an amazing day. We were a bit late starting today with our public meeting because we've had such joy brought it to our souls, both with the Minister of Housing and taking our local MP, Anna Lork, and the Minister around to look at all our amazing housing going on across Hiritonga. And thank you to the councillors who came to the turning of the sod in Flegsmere today. A very, very special day to see the infrastructure going in for up to 180 homes across the next 2 and 3 years. So an amazing day and one worth celebrating. And Flegsmere, fabulous Flegsmere's time. Here we come again, and we all just keep coming and we'll keep doing that. And it was great to think that we could actually get the spade into the soil today and turn it. So wonderful, wonderful day. And what a joy to have Ōrākahanga Music Trust and the children from Ebbett Park School performing for us. What an absolute treat to see those young people with their violins and violas. And thank you, Councillor Dixon, for making that happen. Very, very proud to think of where that trust started 7 years ago with a conversation with Nairi and where it's got to now with 256, she just told me, students that get their free violin or viola, and they get that opportunity to have free tuition and learn a special string instrument. So thank you, everyone. I'd like to start with a karakia, and could I invite Councillor Barber to start us and lead us with a karakia. Kia ora koutou.
Kia ora tātou, mihi ana kia tātou kua tatu mai nei tēnei rā, mihi nei kia koe koromatua, Hazel Hurst tēnā koe, o te ranga manuhiri kua tai mai nei ki tēnei huruenga tātou. Anō reira, mi noi tātou, e tō matua nui i te rangi tēnei te kaunihero Hiritonga mihi nei kia koe. Koe, i homai kia mātou tō wairua tapu, hei arataki, i a mātou nei mahi tēnei rā. Ngā mahi o te kaunihera, kia tutuki pai a tātou ngā mahere, ngā rautaki, hei anga whakamua mo tēnei hapori. O reira e pā tēnei tāmata nei inoi kia koe, kia whakatūwhera pai tēnei huinga i rungi te unga tapu o Hiu Karaiti tō mātou. Kai whakaora, āmene. Kia ora. Haere mai, e ngai iwi e. Haere mai, i runga o te mara. Ui vai tātou, e hine mai, e tamama, apai ngā o, te mana Māori hei, kia rewa runga rawa, iaha, e ngā iwi e haere mai, haere rua tōru wha, ia wehi.
Kia ora, wonderful singing. Thank you for that karakia, Councillor Barber. And we are live streaming today. Councillors will be using their iPads to read their agenda. And for for Amber, very proud, Hastings. Until Friday, we are still level 2, but well done, 91%, leading the charge. Everyone's worked very hard to get our community vaccinated, and so well done to the team. Great to be in Amber on Friday and be able to look after our community safely. So councillors will not all be able to be seen today, but they are scattered around the chamber in level 2 conditions. So I'd like to, first of all, I have no apologies, any leave of absence? No, thank you. Just remind councillors conflict of interest as we come to them at the appropriate time. Item 4, confirmation minutes, not quite there yet, and they will be here with us at our next week's council meeting. Yes, we're having council meetings every week at the moment. There's so much business, we can hardly keep up. Can we, Craig? Cameron?
Enjoys this weekend running council.
Well, soon we'll have a holiday for you, and you won't be doing council agendas on a weekend, I promise. And can I just welcome now to have the Youth Council Chairman's report for 2021, Keelan Hesterman. Welcome, Keelan, and your team. We've got supported by Cheney and Zoe. No, just Zoe. Just Zoe. Lovely to have you both. And would you both like to come up and give us your report for the year? Welcome, Keelan.
Tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou katoa. It is an absolute pleasure to be here presenting to Council, sharing the successes of the Youth Council this year, and making some closing remarks and recommendations on behalf of the 2021 cohort. I've had the privilege of being on the Youth Council for 2 years now, and have held a number of different roles throughout this time, most recently as chairperson. This role has been challenging, but in the best way possible. And I couldn't have done it without the 18 amazing youth councillors, plus Wendy, Pip, Tyler and Denise supporting me along the way. Our year began as a youth council in March when we met as a rupu for our planning session at the BYC to map out where we wanted to head for the year. We clearly identified that we were a group wanting to orient ourselves towards policy and advocacy instead of events. And unfortunately, COVID was listening to those conversations and ensured we largely couldn't do events anyway, so apologies for jinxing it. But this meant we could really get our teeth into submitting on the projects Council was embarking on and ensuring that youth voice was present at every step along the way, alongside rural and Māori voice. As such, it was perfect timing for Council to be consulting on their long-term plan, which we jumped at the opportunity to be a part of. So our 4 Youth Council committees each worked on a section of a submission. So the Events and Communications Committee discussed the riveting topic of parking. The Health and Diversity Committee spoke about the necessity to consider disability access when looking at pedestrianisation and parking plans. The Sustainable Communities Committee spoke about the importance of housing intensification as a way of dealing with the housing crisis. And the Environmental Committee spoke about climate change and the importance of adequate funding in order for Council to be prepared for the effects of climate change. The whole experience of submitting on the long-term plan was an amazing learning curve for all of us, learning about how strategic planning works, the considering of different perspectives, and how to answer the fantastic questions we received from councillors during our presentation. The other big consultation process the Youth Council got on board with was the representation review. The presentation to us in September about the process that was going to follow and the options facing Council simulated some exciting and interested debate around the Youth Council table. So as a result of that, we wrote a letter to councillors during the pre-consultation and submitted a 3-page report on our concerns with the proposal during the public consultation. And I'm so proud of the Youth Council's courage to share our views and stick our necks out there for the sake of better democracy and productive debate. It taught me and the others involved valuable lessons about strategy, policy, and navigating the tricky world of advocacy. And it is mine and the Youth Council's conviction that it is debate, no matter how challenging or even sometimes contentious, that leads to better democracy and more robust policy. We truly believe the discussions between Council and the Youth Council has strengthened our relationship. And it's like a marriage, right? We don't have to agree all the time, but being able to listen to each other's views is the most important thing. And so on that note, I'd like to thank all councillors and the Mayor for welcoming us into the chamber and involving us in the representation review. I know that other youth councils sometimes struggle to get their voices heard on these sort of issues, and so it was a real pleasure to be involved in that process and to get to share our views with you all. Community groups the Youth Council has been involved in throughout the year through our members have been the Photo Iwi Magazine Project, Red Cross Youth, Elections New Zealand, and the Multicultural Association, to name a few. So these are groups that we've had meetings with throughout the year, or maybe have representatives on, and who regularly report back to us, or groups that have gotten in touch to ask for our views on various things. Other side projects this year include taking a look at the state of Hawke's Bay's mental health system, where we submitted a number of Official Information Act requests to see how much money our DHB spends on mental health services, and how much of the $1.9 billion allocated by central government for mental health funding has actually been spent on the ground in Hawke's Bay. The answer, not enough. We also worked with Kevin and his team to see questions about what mental health services young people are actually aware of in Hawke's Bay. We tried to get these questions included into the youth strategy survey, just so we can gather some data that community organisations and mental health groups and the DHB can use to go, what services are young people actually aware of? How can we better communicate these services that we have available to young people so that they can access them more easily? So this work began later in the year, and COVID put a stop to some of the progress. But we hope next year and going into 2022, this information that we get can inform conversations with the DHB, like I said, in our MPs, for example, as we work to deal with our mental health epidemic. We've also been working on the youth strategy to both inform the survey and help craft the actual document. And it's really important to the Youth Council that youth voice is the centre of youth strategies and that it's rangatahi-led because it's for them. And so we're really happy with the progress on this thus far. We also attended the Festival for the Future conference where we heard from a plethora of inspiring speakers, networked with other young people, youth councils, entrepreneurs, MPs, mayors, councillors and changemakers. It was an eye-opening event and a thoroughly enjoyable weekend away for all who attended. We also built our connection with other youth councils, or worked to build our connections with other youth councils in Hawke's Bay. Unfortunately, COVID did mean having a full Hawke's Bay Youth Council hui was unable to happen, so we were planning to have one with CHB Youth Council, Wairoa Youth Council, Napier and ourselves. That couldn't quite happen, but we did get the chance to meet with Napier Youth Council and share what we've each been up to, which was a really valuable event. So not only was the Youth Council this year an awesome opportunity to work on some great projects, get our teeth into local government, and work to ensure youth voice is heard on council projects, but our members also speak highly of the personal growth they've experienced as a result. So getting to sit on council subcommittees, getting to speak at submission hearings and be a part of the Hastings Council machine helps build confidence, communication and speaking skills, interpersonal skills, and helps young people realise that their voice can be used to make change. Youth councillors felt valued and appreciated at the subcommittee table this year and really enjoyed being able to tangibly see the impacts of their voice in whatever they're working on. For example, being like, oh yeah, that word change in the strategy, that was my suggestion at a meeting. And so just being able to tangibly see the effect that their voice can have is really, really valuable, both in terms of having youth voice, but also on a personal level for the youth councillors and their development. Our vision for the future of the Youth Council is to engage in even stronger partnerships with Council, the Rural Community Board and iwi, as part of representing the important interest groups in our district. Next year, we'd love to have more councillors come along to our meetings and see what we get up to, and to increase the dialogue and connections between youth councillors and Council. More presentations from staff about council initiatives youth can get involved in, or even just to provide guidance about council processes and things that will enhance our ability to engage with local democracy. Next year, during the recruitment phase, we're going to try and speak at all schools about the Youth Council, and particularly those that haven't had a voice traditionally on the Youth Council, because we need to ensure that we have a diverse range of voices from across all of our district, and that means we can better represent the rangatahi. So this is going to be a real focus going into next year through the recruitment phase. The Youth Council wouldn't have been able to achieve what it did without the support of various amazing individuals. To Pip, Tyler, and Denise, your management, oversight, and background running of the Youth Council has been extraordinary. And so on behalf of all of us, we owe you the biggest thank you. To Councillor Wendy Sholem, thank you for your wisdom, advice, and support throughout the year. Your updates about what Council has been up to, your professionalism and neutrality, and your genuine care and passion for ensuring that youth voice is heard has been phenomenal this year. Next year's Youth Council is in very safe hands with your support along the way. And to Mayor Hazelhurst, thank you for your continued willingness to meet with the Youth Council and enjoy riveting discussions from topics from cannabis to three waters to gangs, all the way through to which mayor in New Zealand has the coolest office. Your leadership, definitely us. Your leadership has ensured that the Youth Council has been able to thrive under your mayoralty, and so we owe you a huge thank you for that. And to councillors, Chief Executive Nigel Bickle and council staff, thank you for being willing to listen to us, ask tough questions when we present to you, and engage with what we have to say, and help us along the way with submissions, as well as also answering our questions during subcommittees so we can quickly get up to speed on the bureaucratic lingo. You've been an amazing group of people to work with, and the Youth Council owes you a massive thank you. I'm absolutely positive about the future of the Youth Council and the role that youth voice will continue to play in local government. I'm excited by the progress we made this year and what the group next year will be able to get up to and build even more on the role and relationship the Youth Council plays in council decision making. Now, I've been informed that due to budgeting constraints and ratepayer backlash, I'm not actually physically allowed to drop this mic. But on behalf of the 2021 Youth Council, haere rā, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou katoa. Happy to take some questions. Happy to take
Leadership
questions.
of the future, here we come. How fabulous. Before I say a few closing comments, I wonder if anyone has any questions or any other comments that they would like to raise with Keelan, Zoe, before Councillor Kerr.
Thank you, Worship. It's actually not so much a question to the youth team, but actually to ourselves around, can we put an action point down to ensure that, as recommended, there are more councillors that are appointed or coordinated with the Youth Council? If we could do something like that, so it's picked up next year rather than a decision today.
Thank you. So more councillors involved with the Youth Council? Yep. Okay, yeah. Yeah, no, yeah, so that's everybody sort of being more connected. And because I've been actually privileged to have a monthly meeting with the team, and I do feel it a privilege. So you're right, you know, it is really important that everyone has that opportunity. Okay, we'll take that as an action to look at that for next year. Anybody else? Wendy, I'm sure you'd like to say something.
Thank you,
Okay.
Worship. I'd just like to acknowledge Keelan and the entire Youth Council. They came out with a very clear goal at the start of this year, and they absolutely fulfilled that. They wanted to bring the Youth Council voice to the decision-making table, and the way they've been actively involved in submissions and presented themselves, they've done outstandingly well. So I'd just like to acknowledge you and say thank you for what you've taught me along the way.
Nobody else? Can I just take this opportunity, first and foremost, to you, Keelan, for your leadership throughout the year, leading a youth council. I remember sitting in my office last year and I said, hope you're going to be the chair next year. You better put your hand up, because we could see this leadership rising through Keelan and him having, you know, some really, really carefully thought out opinions and views throughout all the subjects that we discussed, as he said, from anything from the cannabis bill to, you know, all the things that impact on our rangatahi's lives, particularly, you know, the mental health stuff and some of the big challenges that our young people face today. And it is really, really important for us to be able to capture the views and value the input that you have put into through all of our processes, our programs, our big projects, and get your views put in there to make sure that we capture our future voice, our young people of the future. So I'm really grateful for the relationship that I've had with you, Zoe, and all of the team. And I listened to a couple of the youth councillors at a district development meeting a couple of weeks ago, and just was blown away by some of the comments and views that they brought to the table. And so, you know, at every level, we've enjoyed having you as part of our democracy, picking up our voice for our community. And we have got a young population, and it's really important that we encourage you to be more involved in local government in the future, make it easier for you, and find really, really direct ways to capture your voice and your views. So thank you for your leadership, for your hard work. Thank you, Zoe, for continuing, and I wish you all the very best for next year and the years to come. We look forward to you being back here and following your progress and seeing, you know, where your lives take you. And when I'm in Wellington, I'll shout out too, because there's a whole lot of you going to be there. So I'd love to catch up in the future, and because you're a dynamic group, and you know, some young people are shy, but you guys have actually got the qualities of leadership at a very young age. So I really admire you. I admire your passion, your commitment. So thank you for your great presentation today. There's no other comments, I don't think, from anyone. So happy to move the recommendations. Councillor Redstone has seconded them, and all the very best to you all.
Thank you.
Kia
Cheers.
ora. I'll put that motion. All those in favour, please say aye. Any against? Thank you. Thanks very much, everyone. Welcome to James. Item number 6, parking controls. There wouldn't be a council meeting without a couple of changes. So thank you, James, for bringing these to us. Pretty self-explanatory. Did you want to add anything to your report? That's right. That's the one.
You want to hear it? Yeah. Thank you, Worship. Once again, a couple of submissions here. I take it all the councillors have read my report. If there's any questions, please feel free to ask.
Thank you very much, James. Councillor Watkins.
Thank you, Worship. Very self-explanatory, and I'm happy to move the recommendations.
Councillor Watkins. Have a seconder. Councillor Kerr. Any further questions or comments? I'll put those recommendations. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Any against? Thank you, that's carried. Too easy, James.
Thank you.
Good paper. Thank you. Item number 7, welcome to Steve, Senior Projects Engineer for the Whakatū Water Treatment Upgrade and upgraded Ngararoto Avenue Reserve reclassification, turning it into a reserve. And I'd like to just see if the councillors that have been involved in this project would like to add anything, as well as Steve, if you'd like to add anything to your report.
Thank you, report's pretty straightforward, follows on from the council.
Thank you, Councillor Kerr. Follows on from the report on the 14th of October, which was at that point in time seeking council resolution to publicly notify park reclassification of the Ngāroa Avenue Reserve. And this report, following on from that notification period, is now seeking resolution to actually reclassify. We received one submission, did not relate to the reclassification process. And apart from that, I'd like to take the report as read and answer any questions. Thank you.
Councillor Redstone and Councillor Corbyn, make some comments, thanks.
Thank you, Your Worship, and I'd just like to thank Steve for the work that he put in, getting this to this place, because it was a big job. The community were very protective of their patch to begin with, and now very, very happy with the outcome. So thank you, Steve, you did a fabulous job.
Kia ora. Councillor Corbyn.
I'm very similar. I'd like to congratulate Steve on getting us to this point. He's actually led a very good community consultation, which he's done very, very well, taking a bit longer than you thought, but we got there. So thanks, Steve, and I'm very happy to move the recommendation.
Thank you, Councillor Corbyn. Okay, so have Councillor Corbyn moving the recommendations, Councillor Redstone second. Any questions on the paper, councillors? How many meetings, public meetings did you have? 4?
4.
Yes, I thought it was 4. True community engagement. Councillor Nixon?
Yeah, just thought I would add a question, because we're talking about the change of classifications, but very nice schematic accompanying it. When might that start?
The reclassification process?
No, the sort of the facilities that are...
The facilities?
Yeah.
The intention is to, the current intention, Councillor Nixon, is to commence the upgrade of the reserve in parallel with the water treatment plant works. There is a process still to run to confirm the enhancement with our parks teams and the community. That process is now independent of the water treatment plant upgrade, and the intention for the process to confirm the enhancement and the concept is due to run in January by our parks team.
Thank you. I'll put that recommendation. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Any against? Thank you, that's carried. Thank you very much, Steve.
Thank
A great job.
Thank you all.
Councillors, item 8 is the proposed road closure trial for Otani Road in Ruahapia. Welcome to Lockie and Clint. Clint, I'd like you to come up too, thank you. Nice to see you here. And if anybody else needs to speak on this, and I'd like Councillor Sears and Councillor Ollie to also speak on this, because we had a submission to the annual plan about what happens next. So welcome, Lockie. It's your paper, and then I'll invite Clint too. So if you are supporting words or any challenging words or whatever words. Thanks, Lockie.
Thank you, Worship. Just one thing to add to the paper that's in front of you. Since the time of writing, we've had consultation with Ruahapia Marae. So I'll just read their statement. Ruahapia Marae are fully supportive of what's been proposed in regards to alterations to the road, which attempts to remove the unruly and unsocial behaviour from these roads. Throughout the last 18 months, the community has used its best efforts collaboratively to mitigate these issues, but without a significant change to the road, we won't be successful. We believe the proposed changes to the area will be easier to police, and will continue to work with police to remove behaviour from the area. Other than that, take the report as read.
And I don't think that the paper captures the full extent of this issue. And having visited 2 months ago with several landowners and Lockie in the area, this is always something that council intended to do when Te Araka Hekatea was open, and so this is completing that. And the pressure and stress on the community who live on this road has been enormous for many years. So thank you for getting this work activated. Clint, did you want to speak at this point?
Just to probably reiterate what's in the report and some of the challenges around, we've done as much as we can do, I think, with CCTV and putting my old police hat on, policing-wise. It's got to the point now where the only options, I believe, is looking at the road. While there is the ability for cars to drive in there and act in that antisocial manner, they will continue to do so. We've got, I think the report comments on the numbers. So there's about 40 cars that have been impounded, and it's just not stopping the issue. So, and that's generally speaking because there's such a wide range of people that go into that area. So it's very hard to get signage and the messaging through to one particular group, because there are a whole lot of different people using that area. And unfortunately, a good number of them are using it in an antisocial manner.
So in terms of, I'll invite now Councillor Sears, next speaker, and Councillor Sears and Councillor Ollie were going to do some work with the young submitter and the annual plan to look at a place for a skid pad.
Yes, yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, Your Worship. I think it's a great paper and a great outcome, and it's an untenable situation for anyone to live in, and I think that was the point of our submitter in the annual plan, that there's a way that it can be taken off the streets into some sort of legitimate way of being where actually residents aren't subjected to this sort of on a nightly basis. So Councillor Ollie and I, we met with staff and we put together a letter of support and acknowledgement that Bradley, our submitter, could use in approaching landowners to say, look, council aren't endorsing anything, but they're happy to work with any landowners to talk through practicalities and ways in which this could work. We just caught up with him a couple of weeks ago, and unfortunately can't meet now before Christmas because of some health issues, but he's still really experiencing the problem that we have with this, which is the perception of the antisocial nature of it is making it really difficult for him. So I had noted today, probably it's a question for us as council again to think about how much we want to look at helping establish something. I noticed that Bradley said, remember in his submission, that the impounding is almost like another feather in the cap, actually. The reason it doesn't work is because it's kind of like another kind of run on the board. And like he says, there's no shortage of cars. So, and the police were at the meeting that we had with staff as well, and they agreed that actually until we find another option, that the policing systems we have aren't going to work either. So I think congratulations for what you're doing here. I think this will be really successful, and I think we probably need to talk more about where to next. But I think Councillor Ollie probably would like to add to that.
Your Worship, echoing what Councillor says, this Brad, his biggest issue is finding land and locating land that's suitable for his aspirations. But I think he's talking and the team for what they've done as well. I'll mention in Flaxmere, very grateful for the speed bumps there, and I feel that those are working because there's no skid marks around the areas where the speed bumps are located. So it's a feather in the cap for us. So, but other than that, we're just waiting on Brad to get better until he continues the journey with us. Thank you.
Thank you. In terms of taking this further and following up with Bradley, and I wonder if the Rural Community Board may be able to look at this. Just picking up your comments, Tan, about your sons and in the past and so forth, and you know.
Yes, we'd like to clarify what my sons have been doing.
Well, people learning to drive on farms and things like that, and having a rural aspect rather than a city aspect, is what you pointed out. Cool, thank you. So, Councillor Nixon?
Yeah, thanks, Worship. I think the landowners in the area are going to greatly appreciate this. I had to do a door knock recently at almost everybody in that area, and not one of them did not complain about the activities being kept awake at night. Gentleman just down the road in Ruahapia said he used to be a policeman. He was too scared to go down there. It was so threatening. Oh, you probably know who I mean. So cars are a problem. There's also a problem with sort of temporary residents, overnight sleepers. I'm not quite sure how we refer to them. I see them quite often because it's right beside the cycle track, so I go down there at least twice a week, sometimes much more. There's an enormous amount of rubbish, not just dump rubbish, but just takeaway bags and bottles and God knows what. It's endless. There's often mattresses and bits of furniture. Hopefully this might start to help control that. But I've got two questions. One is, I've always felt that some rubbish tins somewhere around there would go well, in terms of we can hardly complain when people chuck their rubbish out the window if there's nowhere else to put it. I just wonder if that might not be looked into. I won't say where, but near the cycle track, obviously. The second thing is, I see that Ruahapia West, as I think you called it, you're proposing to make it where it could be a cycle lane on that side. Is there any possibility that could also happen to what I would call Ruahapia East, that runs down towards the cycleway on Karamu Road, because it would make a nice little complete track, a circuit, an easy way to get down. I mean, Ruahapia has become very safe because all this activity actually occurs very late at night and very early in the morning, neither time of which I'm there. So, but it's clear from all the skid marks there's a lot going on at night. Has anybody moved this thing? Because I'm happy to move it.
No, thank you. Councillor Nixon, I'll take it, and I have a seconder. Councillor Kerr. Councillor Harvey.
Thank you. As a resident, I've actually just been down there today, had a look at all the tyre marks and stuff that stretch right from the corner of the state highway right down to the railway lines, and I sort of do question whether, I support the trial, but I don't seem to think that the problem will actually go away. I'm not sure what the total distance of Ruahapia is to the railway lines, but I would say there's at least 800 to 900 metres of road before you get to that junction still, and the rubber starts probably 20% down that road, so I'm not sure whether that will change. I just also am interested in the resident that lives on the west side of Ruahapia, over the other side of the railway lines, and what sort of consultation took place with him, and is he happy? Because that has been an area where they are congregating a lot, and it's quite wide there as well. And then thirdly, another question around Tuadora Road has been really successful with the rubber mat bumper things that have been put in place there, and I just haven't seen any real evidence, or that we've looked at that as an option for Ruahapia and Otini Road as well. So just sort of be keen to hear about those.
So on the idea of speed bumps, we initially presented a number of options to the community around some traffic calming interventions. Keeping in mind it's an 80k area and speed bumps don't do well in the rural area. It's also an area of high orchard use. You get bruised apples and things like that with the trucks bouncing on them. So we did pose that to the community, and they said, why don't you just shut the road? So this is what we're trialling first. If it's not successful, then we do look at other options like that. But I think this is probably the best way forward in terms of what the community are after. In regards to the length of Ruahapia Road, what this road closure trial does, it cuts out the through movement. I would guess that a lot of users would be using it like a racetrack, like a drift track, to go the entire length. It cuts out an escape route. If the police know that there's activity in the area, they can only come out one way. So I would hope that it dies down, it calms the whole area because of that. And that also leads to a response to Councillor Nixon, is if Ruahapia South or East, if that does become a lot quieter, it becomes a lot easier to have a cycleway alongside that. And there was one more question.
Yeah, just in relation to the resident on the other side, and what sort of anything we can do to mitigate the issues there.
So you're referring to the one closest to the railway?
Yeah, on
yes.
the left.
Yeah, so
actually heading towards Pakawhai Road is on the left there.
Yeah, so I've had a lot of discussions with Kevin, and that's who Mayor Sandra met with a couple of weeks ago. They're in support of this. We're also looking to get a camera there on the bridge, which was their idea as well. They asked for some other things that we can't legally do, putting concrete blocks in the road and things like that. But they're happy with this this solution, and fingers crossed that it works for them, because they're seeing a lot of stress. Yeah.
Okay. So just ask a following question. Can you just explain to me what we're doing on the east side is actually going to benefit them? Because I can't really see how that will.
So there's a from 4.9 in your report, covers off what we're proposing for the other side of Ruahapia, which is to basically rip up half the road, leave it at 5 metres wide, leave the remaining seal as a traffic lane, and then a gap, and then a cycle lane, basically linking the Otini Road cycle path to the Pakawhai Regional Park. So it'll be significantly narrower. We'll close up the intersection as well, just so that people can't do burnouts and donouts on there. It may still happen. It's an area that's secluded, so they're obviously targeting that area. But if there's less seal for them to do burnouts on, then fingers crossed that puts them somewhere else or discourages them.
Thank you. I've just got one more based on that response. In the recommendations, you say note the operational decision for proposed road narrowing works on Ruahapia North between, but it's not actually that it's going to happen, is it?
It's in design at the moment. It's budgeted for this year.
Pardon?
It's in design and budgeted for this year.
So is it part of are we recommending that is a step that has been taken?
No, it's just making you aware that this is what we're doing on this.
Yeah, I'd like to see that in some way included, actually. It just seems that, we're looking at doing something. We're not really sure whether we will yet.
No, it's budgeted for this year.
But we're recommending the steps for the other side, right?
Yeah, we're recommending, sorry, where's the recommendations? You're recommending a road closure. We're recommending a road closure.
Right.
That's the only thing we need.
Okay, so you don't need a council decision for the operational side of it. Okay, okay, thank you.
Oh, so it's just noting what's
Thanks.
happening. Thank you. Councillor O'Keefe.
Thank you, Your Worship. I bike that road every day. What a flippin' mess. I don't know if I should make a finite comment here towards boy races, because I might discount myself from decision-making further along the track. But it's a flippin' mess. That road west of the railway line, it's literally black with burnouts, literally black. I come down there and I look at it, the more I bike it, the blimmin' angrier I get. So I'm not even willing to legitimise their behaviour in any way, shape or form. Skid pad, whatever you want to call it. I think they need to put a blimmin' bumpers on their moral compass. I think that's the real problem here. They need to flip and grow up, to be truthful. As I say, I bike there every day, and I don't want a trial. Do something finite. We don't need a trial. They've had their blooming trial. Now it's time to, it's been around since Adam was a cowboy. And I don't quite know what the answer is, apart from, how many cars have we confiscated?
40.
40? Oh, well, they weren't like that. They don't like that, mate. I know they go there, they've got boots full of spare tyres, they burn those out and they put the new ones on. I'm sorry, I don't support legitimising this in any way, shape or form.
So what we're doing is trying to solve this issue that we have had for some years there, since the road was cut off and Te Arakake Kite was built.
Sorry, thank you. So just the west of the railway line, we come across the bridge. So I come back from Clyde, over the bridge, and I turn left and head down towards the railway line. What are you doing there? What are you suggesting there? 4.7, is it? Or?
4.9 in your report.
4.9,
so
yeah.
Narrow the roadway down to 5.5 metres, which is our minimum in the code of practice. So it's as narrow as we can make it. Basically, putting a drainage ditch in between there and a cycleway, so they can't, use the entire width. We still need to maintain access for all the residents and orchardists there.
I'm afraid I'm not feeling very benevolent towards these people.
It's about fixing this situation. In the day when the road was being built, there was a massive big mound of stones there, and we didn't have the issue. And then the stones were gone, and then the issue came. So it's so that was Anyway, right, Councillor Baden Barber, Councillor Barber.
Yeah, thank you. In terms of the community meetings, how many people were in attendance?
We didn't take a count, but I would guess around 25 to 30.
25 to 30, okay. Is that including the marae?
There were
mainly residents?
It was mainly residents who were members of the marae. We have since talked to Mike Paku from Ruahapia Marae and got his comment, which I read at the start of the meeting.
Okay. So in terms of, we drive them out of this part of Hastings, where are they going to next? Like, what's they'll probably go to Flaxby, Henry? Probably coming out to, you move them from one part of Hastings, they're gonna go somewhere else.
I agree.
What I'm saying is sometimes we have to calculate how we respond to these things, because, you take pressure off one part of thing, it puts pressure on another part of the network. I'm looking at the map, I see a whole lot of orchard. I don't see stacks of houses, but, there's obviously people living down there. I'm just saying that, how are we going to do this to every part of Hastings that we have a boy racer problem? Pending some kind of a raceway somewhere. Someone's going to.
So, Councillor Barber, we had that submission, and two councillors are looking at what else we could do. And you're right, it is a challenge, and you know we've seen on State Highway 2, it's all across the region. So this issue, but you just need to go down there, Councillor Barber, and have a look and see the way and see how the road has been locked away, and how it's just created this thing, but actually it's really unsafe for residents living down there, and they were always promised as part of our development of Te Ara Kahikatea that road would be addressed, and now we are addressing it. But, you know, in terms of what's next with skid pads and those sorts of things, you know, we've got some people looking at it, and it's anybody else who wants to help, more than welcome, actually. Because it's an issue across the whole of Hawke's Bay. Councillor Lawson?
Thank you, Your Worship. I don't think there's been a seconder, so I'd like to second the recommendations, if that's the case. And also, you know, the residents, the police and the marae endorse this way forward, so thoroughly happy to second it.
Thank you, Councillor Lawson. No further comments? I'll put those recommendations. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Any against? Thank you. That's carried. And good luck and well done, Lockie, for getting us to this place. Item number 9. Welcome to Bruce. And this is the authorisation to enable access of Remains Drive to serve the Brookvale development. Thank you, Bruce.
Thank you, Your Worship. This is just a brief report. We have the Environment Court decision on the Brookvale Structure Plan. This report is only the necessary authorisation under the Local Government Act that Council has to give to enable the construction of 2 intersections on Remains Drive. So, pretty self-explanatory in terms of the report.
Thank you. Councillor Dixon.
Yeah, thank you, Worship. When I read this through, I thought it was about a half a report, not a full report. So I've got a number of questions I'd like to ask. The first one is Remains Drive is an established attractive trees on either side. There's 16 on one side and 19 on the other. How many of those trees will need to be removed to allow access and visibility?
Through Your Worship, I would anticipate that there should be 4.
4?
Both 4 that would be on the northern side.
Okay. Then there's also a planned link into Thompson Road. When's that going to occur?
Good question. We're currently doing the design at the present time. We're in negotiations, or there is negotiations going on with the landholder of 2 blocks of land on that side. So what we want to do from council's perspective is front foot that design, so we control the design.
So that's not going to have any impact at all onto the outlets onto Remains Drive?
They shouldn't do.
They shouldn't do. So what modifications are liable to be done to Thompson Road? Because that's a very, very narrow road. It's going to have a linkage through to Napier Road on it.
If you're familiar with the structured plan, you'll find that there will be a 12-metre wide carriageway. Associated with that, there will also be a shared cycle path on the western side of Thompson Road. So Thompson Road will end up being widened, quite markedly widened. And then that will continue to across the Crombie Drain and link in with Russell Robertson Drive, the roundabout at Russell Robertson Drive. So that will be a key link as part of the network around there.
And what about the...
So, through you, Your Worship, perhaps just there might be some confusion. So this paper is solely around activating, releasing the limited control access points on Remains Drive to enable the Environment Court decision for these 2 accesses. I'm wondering, through you, Your Worship, whether closer to the time there's actually a wider briefing on the implementation of the Brookvale subdivision, because this is just officers in this particular item are reporting on getting permission for the these two access points onto a limited access roads to enable the Environment Court decision as different to the wider subdivision design and characteristics.
In all due respect, this is a big, complex, particular area, and it's got lots of exits and lots of entrances on it, which is going to be problematic in the future. And I think we really need to have the full picture before we pass a minor part of it. Because we've also got the roundabout on Thompson Road, coming onto Napier Road, opposite the Figgery, which is also going to be problematic in the end.
Through you, Your Worship, as that decision was made by the Environment Court when the Brookvale Structure Plan was adopted, and the picture that's shown on page 32, the top picture, is basically that structure plan.
Okay. So when was that structure plan presented to council?
So it came through the Environmental Court? So it's not a council decision of the structure plan?
So I'm just...
John, did you want to
bring a red alert alongside this, because it's got a whole host of problems around it that council are going to have to solve. Thank you.
And did you want to add anything about the structure plan?
Just very simply, Councillor Dixon, remember this was the situation where we advised just from memory, this is a situation where we advised or asked the Environment Court to join other parties, remember, adjoining landowners, and they decided not to do that, and then they came out with this decision. So I think what Bruce and Craig are trying to say is they've had very little input into the decision. It just comes out of the Environment Court, and their practical job is to implement that. So, yeah, sorry about that one.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Lawson, that's answered a lot of questions for councillors. Councillor Lawson?
Thank you, Your Worship. Look, I appreciate what's been said, and it's really out of our control, but it's just really a red flag that is going to cause some major problems, in my opinion, onto Thompson Road and Remains Drive. It's a busy area. Thompson Road is a narrow road. It's very busy where Thompson Road meets Napier Road. There's a very sharp corner there, and it's all 100k. So just flagging that potentially there are going to be some really, sort of potential danger points.
So just, I mean, this is a structure plan that was done by the Environmental Court. Is the community being involved? Is the community involved in a process like that, John?
Unfortunately, what happened is, in a broad sense, it was mainly the parties in and around the actual subdivision that got involved. And then when it went to appeal, they didn't join the appeal, so they got left out of the loop. So in a general sense, the broader traffic network probably hasn't been addressed. Yeah.
Great.
Just through you, Your Worship, as I commented before, when it comes to actually the infrastructure response and the detailed design work, we would bring that back to you around the work we're going to do to look to make the best of the situation that we have to deliver on, and we'll bring that back when that's ready for your advisement.
Councillor Nixon?
I wasn't going to speak on this, but I hear Councillor Dixon's concerns. I actually support this because otherwise the traffic is going to come out of the new subdivision and end up on Brookvale Road, and then it feeds into the roundabout at the bottom right of the picture on page 32. And that's already quite congested. You do get hold-ups there already. So this, I think, will help alleviate that by allowing some traffic to proceed straight down Brookvale Road towards the lane. I've forgotten the name of it now. And I think this gives a better opportunity of shifting that traffic either back towards Brookvale or down towards Napier Road. So I think it's actually quite a good solution, and we'll have to deal with those other problems when we get the opportunity. I'm actually happy to move it if nobody else will.
Thank you, Councillor Nixon. I think it's important to have a look at the wider picture too, and I think that's probably a good action to take away from today. Thank you. Councillor Kerr.
I'm happy to second this. as far as I can tell, this is really just a legal hurdle that we need to overcome. And to clarify, if when Remains Drive was created, it hadn't been, I'm not sure if the word's endorsed is, but as a limited access road, we wouldn't actually have this discussion. So this is about lifting the limited access road label, or once again, not sure of the right terminology, away from this road, just to happen to allow things to get on. So happy to support this.
Through you, Your Worship, correct. If it wasn't limited access, you wouldn't have this paper. But just to clarify, you're not lifting the limited access control on the road, you're enabling two accessways onto it.
Thank you. We have a mover and a seconder. Councillor Harvey.
Thank you. Just coming out of the two new accessways, will they be able to immediately turn right across traffic, or? I mean, it's busy. It is a busy road. It's more. It doesn't seem as if it's necessarily an urban road, and I just wondered whether.
Through you, Your Worship, yes, they will. We're currently in the process of coming up with designs that are consistent with the overall structure plan for basically the new link road from Russell Robertson Drive through to Napier Road, so that will pick up Thompson Road. That will have to be widened. We're looking at the overall structure to get across Crombie Drain, but part of those overall improvements are looking at the two intersections, how they should be designed, so they're designed as safe as possible to primarily address your concerns, and also to look at what improvements are necessary for the Remains Drive Napier Road roundabout. We recognise there's issues there. And thinking longer term as well is also what should the final form for the Napier Road, Thompson Road intersection be as well. So that forethought is already in there. We are constrained in terms of some of the widths that are governed by the structure plan, but we can work within those to come up with a suitable solution that will address the concerns that have been raised around the table here.
Thank you, Bruce.
Thank you. And is it best practice to have that intersection immediately opposite the one which will go into the BMX area?
Through Your Worship, a good challenge from a safety perspective, and that's the aim, is to come up with a workable and safe solution. Bear in mind is that the BMX operates from time to time. There are a few vehicles that go through. I'm mindful that it is on a curve through there, so yeah, definitely that's where a good design is necessary for it.
Thank you. Councillor Barber?
Yeah, I'm just looking at the Remains Drive. The two entry-exit points are 146 metres apart. Is that that seems pretty close for a major in and out to access?
That's been provided. I think that was what had come through in terms of the structure plan. Part of it is, as people turn right out of it, is that there's sufficient space for them to be able to sit in probably a painted median and then be able to merge with the traffic thereafter. So there is sufficient merge distance that would be provided. There's good visibility. If they are looking back, they'll be able to see quite clearly. So in terms of it, is while it's a dimension on there, those are the principles from the design that I need to look at, need to consider in terms of it coming up with that safe arrangement.
Thank you. Councillor Dixon?
Yeah, thank you. Just another question. There is plans for a small development on council land by the pumping station that we had a presentation for. Where is that access and going to occur?
Is it you, Craig, or John?
Craig's team, Mr Cameron's team, Sam, is progressing that. So the decision was to look to sell that land to one of two property owners, and both of those would use internalised ones rather than off onto Remains Drive. There's no legal access onto Remains Drive because of that limited access road.
Thank you.
The plans are not showing any connections at this particular stage.
So I think, Councillor Dixon, that we've asked for the wider view to come back as a looking at the wider area and how people will safely access in and out of both Napier, Remains and the whole new Brookvale subdivision. So I think that we need to look at the whole picture, and I think you've raised that today, and happy to take that as an action, unless you want to formalise it in a recommendation. I have a mover and a seconder. No further questions or comments? I'll put that recommendation. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Any against? Thank you. That's carried. Thank you, Bruce. Welcome to Mr. Clues. This is the Clifton Tonga Coastal Hazards Joint Committee meeting summary report, and Craig's taking that report. Or Bruce. Thank you. Oh, okay, thank
So
you.
yeah, on behalf of Mr. Clues, really just, we'll take the report as read. It's the minutes from the last committee meeting. I understand councillors Redstone, Dixon and Corbyn were at that meeting, so maybe if there's any questions, they could help answer. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillors Dixon, Corbyn and Redstone, if you wish to add anything to this report, having attended the committee meeting.
Just, Your Worship, that the memorandum of understanding is in draft form. It's going to be circulated at a later date.
Great, thank you. Thank you for that. Would you happy to move the report?
Yes,
Councillor
thank
Dixon,
you.
thank you. Seconder, Councillor Redstone.
And just to confirm that the transition agreement will be at the council meeting on the 9th of December.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Okay, have a mover and a seconder. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Any against? Thank you. That's carried. 2021 meeting schedule changes. New meeting on the 13th of December for Civic and Administration Subcommittee.
Happy to move, Your Worship.
Thank you. Moved by Councillor Dixon, seconded Councillor Kerr. Any questions? Comments? Put that recommendation. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Any against? Thank you. That's carried. Now, councillors, we have item number 14. Oh, no, we don't. We have item number 13, don't we? So we have an urgent item. And that will be in PX. So we have two items in PX today, and perhaps the officers could take us through before we move into PX why these items should be public excluded.
Yeah, I'll deal with the urgent item first, Your Worship. So we're intending to have a public excluded report on land negotiations considered on the 9th of December council meeting. We're asking that it be taken as an urgent item today because the vendors have made an offer to sell the land to the council, but that offer is only open until Friday of this week, the 3rd of December, and asking that that be dealt with as an urgent item today, and then that publicly excluded agenda item along with the public excluded item, the reasons being to basically preserve the negotiation position of the council on commercially sensitive information.
Thank you.
A mover and a seconder for...
Yes. Moved by Councillor Travis, seconded by Councillor Dixon. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Thank you. Any against? That's carried. Right, we now move into the PX. Thank you.